Hello everybody, it's Chaz in Omaha, here with another build guide for you. This time we have the Flame Wraith Necro. First we're going to go ahead and go over some general gameplay. First you put your A-bomb down and put your Dread Shade on it, and then let it stand there. Then you run around and drop 2 to 4 Flame Wraiths in the same spot and life drain them. This keeps you at full mana all the time, while keeping your buffs from those beams that you see on me. And I would suggest you spread your Flame Wraiths out so that enemies are less likely to clobber them, yeah? And then every once in a while this guy will run out of his Dread Shade and you re-Dread Shade him, or you like make a new one and re-Dread Shade that one, yeah? Then you also want to maintain Transplant. You get a lot of armor and stuff from Transplant, so you want to use it, even if you don't need to teleport. Just like teleport in place to get the buff up, yeah? As far as the strengths go on this build, the boss DPS on this is probably even higher than the squirrels. If you want like a Juro killer, this is probably like the build to make. It's also really easy to dodge stuff, because like this is all you do, right? You just put them down and then you can just kind of run around. Another really interesting strength is that you don't have to aim. You don't have to aim at monsters. You just let the race aim for you, right? You just put them somewhere. Put them somewhere and they'll aim for you. Another interesting strength is that, like, the strongest uniques for this build, which is basically the staff, the neck, and the gloves, are really easy to get and or targetable. The gloves and the neck are purely targetable. The gloves always come with 1 LP also. And then the staff is just pretty common. Some weaknesses for this build is that you do need 2 Flame Wraith idols so that you can get at least to 78% on idols and fill the rest in with your skills. You don't like have to have these when you start the character. You could just use not Totem Wraiths. But without these, the Totem Wraiths are not going to really work out because half of your Wraiths will be melee and that'll suck. The other sort of weakness in this is that Arena is really annoying. Since you don't want this guy to ever get attacked because he just sits there at 1 health, you kind of just like want to play goalie in Arena and you like surround him with your race like this, right? And just try and keep him from getting killed. Okay, we can go ahead and go over the skills now. First, we'll start with Summon Wraith. You want to go ahead and go into Wraithbringer first. Then you want to put the extra point into Reapers to get just 1 point into Necrotic Hunger so that your Wraiths can keep themselves alive. After that, you want to get to Dawn of the Fall maxed out for the flat crit and more health leech on your pets. At this point, you can kind of put points in wherever you want. But one thing I would recommend is that you do not go into this totem thing until you have very close to 100% Flame Wraith summoning, and you also have the Drain Life thing set up so that you can leech mana from them. Before that, this is just going to be a pain in the butt. Alright, next we can go ahead and go over Transplant. Now, Transplant serves 3 main purposes. 1, it gives you a bunch of armor. 2, it gives you Frenzy all the time and haste. And then, of course, it's just a teleport. So for Transplant, you first just want to go right into this bone armor stuff. Just do all this bone armor stuff first. This is like the main reason that you spec Transplant. After that, you probably want to get this haste and frenzy duration thing. Then I would recommend going down into this fear thing. This can really save you if you're like surrounded by a bunch of mobs and like maybe one of those snake ladies is making all the mobs not die around you. This fear can save your life. And then last, I would go ahead and fill in this cast speed, CDR, and the anemia with whatever points you have left. Okay, so next we can go ahead and go over Dread Shade. First, I would go right into this no longer drains health thing. This will make it really easy to use right at the beginning, even when you're not using Totem Shades and doing all the drain life thing. Next, I would go into Grim Fate. This makes it a lot bigger and a lot more usable for early on, and preps you for this node later. Then I would go ahead and go into 2 out of 4 Lingering Doom. This is mostly just so you can get prepped for putting the 1 point here for right when you're ready to do it. And then after that, you can either go for more damage or get the armor thing. It doesn't really matter at that point. You can just kind of fill the points in however you want. I would recommend getting this symbiotic thing right before or right after you end up putting the spectral distance thing in. That way you get buffed by like the cast speed and the armor and all that stuff. Okay, next we can go ahead and go over A-Bomb. Now, A-Bomb is a really weird skill because there's only actually 11 points in here that really matter at all. And that's 4 points to get here, and the rest of the points to get here. Once you have this and this, the rest of the points pretty much just don't matter. I didn't do it, but I would recommend going ahead and maxing this out just so he dies faster, which is actually a good thing. And one other thing I would point out in this tree, this node is like the natural route you would take to right here, but I hate this node because these vanguards a lot of times would troll me when I started a dungeon or like when I resummoned him, and then I would accidentally put Dreadshade on the skeletons. So I went around it because they annoy me, but you know, you do whatever you want. All right, last we can look at Drain Life. Now, Drain Life is an essential skill to this build, but it's not really usable until you have a minimum of 11 points. And what 11 points would get you is that you would be able to drain your minions to get mana, and you would be able to place the Drain Life on the floor. So you really don't even want to bother using Drain Life until you have at least these two things. And then after you get those two things, I would go with the mana efficiency next because this thing is pretty brutal on your mana, especially early on. And then you can either go for faster leech, you can go for it lasting longer, which is pretty nice, or you can go for the defense part of this, which gives you a ton of all res and armor. This node right here is basically the reason why you kind of ignore resistances on this build. Alright, next we can go ahead and go over some key points with the gear. First off, we have the Aberrant Call. You could theoretically play this build without this staff, but I don't think I'd want to. So it gives you plus 6 to 12 maximum wraiths, and plus to the summon wraith, and gives you a lot of mana regen and minion damage. So this thing is just kind of amazing. There are only 2 affixes, which you see here, that matter. So these are the 2 you want to prioritize. There are no other affixes that really do much of anything. Next we have the Jorah's Gloves. These are technically optional, but it's so easy to get a 1 LP pair of these that you really should just get one. I got unlucky with mine. You really want cast speed in here. Cast speed is by far the best thing to have in here. And then the shred armor is probably the second best thing. Next we have Twisted Heart. This is by no means mandatory, but it's really good in this build for a few reasons. One, the strength is actually really good in this build because you end up with a crap ton of armor later, and the strength gives you like % armor mod, right? The cast speed is also very good, and the % health implicit is just insane. So you don't need this, but I do recommend using it. You could alternatively use a well-rolled Acolyte Weaver Relic. I think if you got a really, really well-rolled Acolyte Weaver Relic, it actually might be better than Twisted Heart in some ways. Okay, next we have the Logi's Hunger. This is technically optional, but getting a 0 LP of it is not really very hard, so I would just get one. And then last we have a super optional item, Blood of Exile. This is totally not necessary, but it makes for really easy movement speed, and the strength and int that comes in default on it is quite good. You could just wear Exalted Boots here, it wouldn't really matter that much. Then we have Titan Heart. This is also optional, but it's very strong on this build because you really make good use of the % health that comes with this item. For other gear, you definitely want minion rings. The minion implicits on these rings is quite good. And then you definitely want this type of helm as soon as you're high enough to get it. That flat minion spell damage in the implicit is very, very powerful. And you definitely want to make sure you get that crit for minions in this headpiece. Alright, next we have the idols. So you know you want double Flame Wraith, right? If you can get 2 that add up to over 100%, you're winning. Next priority would be the crit strike for minions. You want that on as many of these as you can. And then you also want one of these with chance to mark for death on hit for your minions. I don't have one. It'd be nice if it was here, but I don't have it. So what are you going to do? Okay, so that's it for gear. I'm going to make a quick section here that I don't normally make in my build guides, just to like smooth over the way that you level with this character. It's pretty intuitive, but I thought I'd mention it just so I can highlight some key transition points. So when you first start out, I would say you just go with Summon Skeleton, and you go with Summon Bone Golem, and then you use Bone Curse. If you want to use even more things early on, you can use Harvest as a filler, or Rip Blood as a filler, or Wandering Spirits as a filler, or Zombies a little bit later, or you can use Spirit Plague, Hungering Souls, you know, some sort of filler. But Bone Curse, Skeleton, and Golem is probably the 3 I would recommend the most, really early. As soon as you're able to get Summon Skeleton Mage and Summon Wraith, you can start using both of those too, and you can just turn into like a pet zoo. And then you just continue the pet zoo up until you want to put the staff on. You do not need to put the staff on right when you can at 38. It might actually even make your life easier to not put it on right away. But as soon as you do put the staff on, you're basically a Wraith-only build. Because your mages, your skeletons, and your golems will just start dying very rapidly. And resummoning them is not worth it because you're going to be using all your mana on Summon Wraiths. Yeah? As of recording this video, there is a bug with this staff where if you take it off, summon a pet, and then put it back on, the minion lose 6% thing does not activate. So you can try that with Bone Golem. It might be worth doing to make your life easier since he's such a good tank. But if you're a good player and you're good at dodging stuff, then maybe you don't even bother. Let's go ahead and go over the passives a little bit. They're pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to mention the entire pathway. I will just mention a few key highlights here. First thing is, I wouldn't go for Bone Arrow right at the beginning because you don't need this armor. I would go for Int and Necrotic Res first so that you do more damage at the beginning. Go ahead and go with this cast speed thing right away. This is quite good. And then anything else that like makes you do like damage at the beginning, I would do that over this vitality and armor stuff. And then later when you get going, you can just respec yourself to this for defensive stuff, right? In Lick, you need 5 points to hit Drain Life, but you're not really going to be able to use Drain Life effectively until I think you're mid-50s. So there's really no rush to getting here. Just keep it in the back of your mind that you do need 5 points in here to get to your Drain Life. As far as the Necro tree goes, this is pretty cut and dry. You just kind of slam it into this pet thing, slam it into the pet things. You're forced to put points in here to get farther forward. You could put some minion health in here instead of this. It wouldn't really be that big of a deal either way. Then you go into the armor shred, which is very, very powerful. And then I wouldn't do this health stuff till later. I would focus on these two and then this stuff early on. And then you can kind of fill this stuff in, these 3 in later as you get closer to like level 90, yeah? So that's pretty much it for passives. We're going to go ahead and show you some gameplay clips so you can see what playing it is actually like. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time. It was a 4-season song originally. At least according to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is probably right. Probably, for something that's a well-known song like that. Shatter! This is a mercy. Sir, I don't believe you know what mercy means. Sons of Artor, aid me. Gotta keep everybody on this side. So wait, Andy Williams was the cover. Is that what you're saying? Okay. That's funny. That's a good one. Frankie Valli. Only in his falsetto, right? Frankie Valli's falsetto is pretty distinctive. I guess it's kind of similar to the Bee Gees, but... So Antifa must be a big Smashing Pumpkins fan. That's the gist I'm getting. Tempest Maw. I feel like we're never gonna use that weapon. But I can't not pick up LP weapons, you know what I mean? That just seems wrong. They're adjacent to a sort of new wave dream shoegaze you've gotten lately. Oh, okay. You suck, game. Wave dream pop. So I'm assuming you're listening to what's that freaking band that everybody likes that I don't really like? The classic rock one with the trippy music. With the hole in the wall. You know what I'm talking about when I say hole in the wall, right? Wait, brick in the wall, not hole in the wall. Wait, is that the album name, Hole in the Wall? Maybe that's the album name. What the hell's that band's name? I don't know if I know Devo either. I thought of somebody else when you said Devo, but I'm pretty sure that's not who you meant. Who's the other... There's like a female singer from like, I would say like the 90s-ish that has a vaguely similar name to Devo. Who is that? Who am I thinking of? That's gonna drive me crazy. D starts with a D. No, earlier than Demi Lovato. You didn't go far enough back. Demi Lovato, did Demi Lovato even, was she even alive in the 90s? Dido. That's who I was thinking of, Dido.
Thank you.